Welcome to the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. I'm Allie Rose, certified clinical hypnotherapist and subconscious success coach. I help my clients stop self-sabotage and feel safe to create more wealth, worth, and wellness from within. If you find yourself stuck repeating the same unhelpful patterns in your life, health, business, or relationships, even after all the mindset work, this podcast is for you. Each week, you'll hear deep dives into the hidden beliefs shaping your life and live hypno coaching sessions where someone shifts a block in real time. Because willpower isn't the problem, your subconscious story is. And when you shift it at the root, everything else begins to change. So let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to Shift Your Story, Change Your Life. We're so excited to be back with you today, and we are going to be talking all about manifesting and the subconscious mind. So before we dive in, Sophia, how are you? And how are you feeling about diving into this topic of manifesting today?
I am really good today. Really looking forward to our conversation. How do I feel about diving into the topic? I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hearing your take on it. Yeah, I have a bit of a strange relationship with the word manifestation, so I'm looking forward to hearing your take on it and how your sort of process works around the topic of manifestation.
Yeah. So tell me your feelings about the word manifesting. It's okay. You can be honest.
I don't like it. I don't like it, and I don't know if that's because of how I've heard it talked about or just the ideas around it. Like I'm very, sometimes when people talk about it, it's almost like this magical thing, like, hey, you can make things. It almost to me gives the impression that things are just going to drop into your lap out of nowhere. And I kind of, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I agree with it. And I don't know if it's the sort of message that I want to go with because I don't mind working for stuff. So, but that being said, quite often I feel like when people are talking about it, it's at odds with my view of the world as well because, I feel like I'm not convinced that everything's available to everyone. So there's lots of mixed feelings around it. So yeah, it would be great to discuss it. What about you? Actually, there is something I would love to ask you because I think this is something that contributes to the conversation. What do you mean by manifestation?
Yeah, I think that the word manifestation means to make something kind of like, it's interesting, right? You said, I don't know if everything is available to everyone, but when I think about manifestation, there's kind of the old school manifestation, which is to get things in your life, right? Or to make manifest something in your life, have
Yeah.
it appear in your life. So that's really what I'm talking about whenever I say the word manifestation. Does that clarify?
It does. It does. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to chatting about it. How do you feel about the word manifestation?
Yeah, I really don't love the word. I actually feel like sometimes I hate the word manifestation, and it's not because of the concepts, but I think that the word, especially within the last like 10 years, has been overused and it's been
Mm,
misrepresented. And I think that sometimes people throw it around as if like all you have to do is think happy thoughts and then wait for the universe to drop things into your lap. And I just don't believe that that's how it works. It's not about just thinking positively. I'm thinking about, and I'm totally going to out myself here. I'm an avid reality TV watcher and I love it because I love the human behavior. And one of the shows that I used to watch, I don't really watch it as much anymore, but it's 90 Day Fiance. And then there's a spinoff called Darcy and Stacey. Darcy was on 90 Day Fiance. And like Darcy and Stacey often say, like, let's just manifest that into our life. And I think that that to me is like what's wrong with the word like manifestation. there's a lot going on beneath the surface. I do believe that we can become energetic matches for certain things in our life, but I just don't think that, thinking happy thoughts and positive thoughts is going to suddenly drop things that we want down from the sky to our life.
Yeah, I definitely don't agree with that either. And like you said, I feel like I don't think it works that way. And also, like I said, I guess for me, I think about all of the places I've been and the people I've seen in different circumstances. And I'm just like, if people could just manifest things paying into their lives, like I'm not sure
Right.
like things would be a bit different. So that being said, like you talk about being an energetic match for something, I'm not even sure if that's how I would phrase it, but I definitely, see how your field of vision opens up when if you are in one state of mind versus another, and it allows you to see those synchronicities and
Right.
kind of step into places that you may not have expected to. So I can definitely see how that would work.
Right.
And it's I've been having an interesting conversation with my sister recently about money, which kind of ties to this. So maybe it'll come up as the questions go along. But yeah, definitely I can see how changes in your subconscious or your sort of how you sort of see things can impact what comes into your life. But I don't think it's like that magical thing that people seem to think it is. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, and here's the thing. I want to be really clear in that more than half of the world lives in spaces and places where the idea of manifesting they're living in survival mode. However, I do want to say that I've listened to enough podcasts and people's stories of people who have grown up in abject poverty and have somehow believed in something so much bigger and greater than themselves that they have been able to manifest a life that is beyond what most of the people in their world would ever even imagine. And so like hearing stories like that makes me believe that there is something to this idea of energetically believing in something. But I also just want to acknowledge that when you are in survival mode in your life, and you don't have a lot of examples of people around you who have moved beyond a certain level, that the idea of manifestation can maybe feel a little bit unattainable, jarring, out of your realm of possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm curious, what do you because obviously, you both will listen to podcasts, we hear people talking about it. What do you think people get wrong about manifestation? You talked about that idea of like something just materializing out of nowhere from the universe. Is there anything else that you think people get wrong about manifesting?
I think that most people, when you think about manifesting, most people focus on getting things. So, whether that's more money, a relationship, a dream job, right? Thinking that if they can just acquire these things, that they'll finally be happy or fulfilled. But to me, right, manifestation isn't just about the thing itself. It's about what you believe that thing will bring you. And I think that if you don't address the deeper emotional drivers behind the desire for your thing, you're just kind of chasing surface level goals without the real transformation. And I think that that's where people get stuck.
Yeah. And I definitely know what you mean about the chasing the like you're actually chasing the feeling behind the thing. Because, it's like I say to one of my work colleagues, I'm like, we can't eat the money. Like that's not what we want. We want, the freedom or whatever we think having more money or more whatever will bring. And it can, but as you said, if you don't address that deeper thing, I know people who just there's this expression like kick the can down the road. Like they want this thing, they get it, then it's the next thing, then it's the next thing, then it's the next thing. And they never really get that fulfillment that they want, even though they are quote unquote manifesting the things
Right.
that they want.
Right.
So we get that. We talked about being an energetic match for things. Say a bit more about that. What do you mean by being an energetic match?
Yeah. So I think it's more so to me, it's about like what you believe is possible for yourself. right? So if you are constantly living in a space where all of your thoughts, your looping thoughts are, I am unworthy, very low negative thoughts. What that does is that's like putting on a pair of glasses, and that's what you see in your world. That's what you attract into your life in some ways is more things that kind of reflect back to you that you are not worthy of something, right?
Definitely. And I think I think of an example of someone I knew years ago who wasn't just that they would get what they were an energetic match for. It was like even when they got things, I felt like they couldn't even see it, right? They were so fixated on their own story, which is why, I love the title of this podcast, because they were so fixated on this story that they never got anything that they needed or wanted, that they would get things. And I feel like almost like they had a blinders on. Like you talk about having glasses, but I feel like almost they had like blinders on or like tunnel vision. They were so fixated on this thing that when things did come in that could present an opportunity, I don't think they even could see it. You talked about being in survival mode.
Mhm.
I think that can really cloud people's ability to even see when those opportunities do present themselves.
Absolutely.
For sure. So what role do you think the subconscious mind plays in manifestation or in, as you talk about, the energetic match?
Yeah. So I think that your subconscious mind really is everything when it comes to manifestation or becoming that energetic match. Because as I have hopefully said, probably said, 90 to 95% of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are driven by our subconscious mind. So if your conscious mind is saying, I want success in whatever area of your life that is, whether that's your career, your business, your relationship, but your subconscious mind is running a program that says that success means pressure and burnout or that love isn't safe. Guess which one wins out? Your subconscious mind. And so this is why people struggle even when they're doing all the right things. If your subconscious beliefs aren't aligned with your conscious desires, then you keep running into the same roadblocks. And so I really do believe that in order to manifest, you have to change kind of the underlying current or the background music that is playing the subconscious beliefs.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And how could someone tell if their subconscious belief is blocking their manifestations? Because I think, maybe there are less rules to manifestation than I think. But as you talked about, someone who is doing all those right things and they're not getting what they're trying to manifest, how can you tell if that is coming from your subconscious mind?
Right. So, a really simple way to check is to look at your results. So, if you keep hitting the same walls in a particular area, whether that's money, love, career, there's likely a subconscious block at play. I've talked to people who say, like, I'm almost, like, they keep hitting that almost point of like getting what they want. Right. And, if you kind of sabotage when things start going well, I think that's a clue, right? If you say that you want something, but deep down it makes you feel anxious or uncomfortable, then probably your subconscious isn't on board. And so one exercise is to really just say out loud, I am worthy of and insert whatever goal it is, and then notice how your body reacts. If you feel resistance, tension, doubt, that's a sign that maybe there's something deeper to work on there. How does it feel to say, I am worthy of whatever it is that you're saying that you want?
Okay. What are some just common subconscious beliefs that you've found with clients has been sabotaging or blocking their manifestation?
Right. So I think that some of the biggest ones that I see is money is hard to earn. So if you believe this, you'll subconsciously resist like ease in wealth creation, or I have to struggle to be successful.
Mhm.
I think there's a big belief because I mean, I don't know if you grew up with this, but like I think a lot of us grew up where it's like work really hard, right? Like in order to get what you want. And so there sometimes can be this idea of having to work really hard, like and struggling to be successful. And oftentimes that means that you can create some unnecessary obstacles for yourself because you believe that success has to be a struggle. Another really
Mhm.
big one is that love always leads to pain.
Mhm.
So I think that, people often will attract toxic relationships or push good ones away. because of that kind of underlying fear that love always leads to pain. And maybe another one is like, if I get too successful, people will judge me. So people will hold themselves back from growth because they don't want people to judge them in any way because they want to belong. And so, these beliefs, they're often formed in childhood around things that our parents say money doesn't grow on trees, work really hard to X, Y, and Z, right? Like things don't come easy, and then they shape how we experience our life.
Yeah, it's true. There was one that it's a saying that we have here in Barbados, the money burning a hole in your pocket. And it's just this idea that like you get it and all of a sudden you have some expense comes up that will take it away. And a lot of people like they believe that and they live that way, right? They can't keep it. You can get it, but you can't keep it type of thing. So I know that's one that I've seen and kind of observed and sometimes have lived like that. So I definitely get that.
Right.
So how does hypnosis help to reprogram the subconscious for manifestation?
Yeah. So I think that it's really clear to me that, obviously we've talked about how the subconscious mind plays a huge role in manifestation. And so, I mean, hypnosis is really like reprogramming the software in your brain. It's like when somebody has installed Windows 95 and then you need to upgrade it. You're like, oh, I need to upgrade to Windows 98. And in order to be able to actually run the programs that I want to run in my life. And hypnosis is the same. You look at the
Mm.
old programming, it allows you to bypass that critical analytical part of your mind and just go straight to the subconscious where those limiting beliefs are stored. And then we can rewrite those old programs that someone else many years ago installed on your system and replace them with beliefs that actually support the goals that you have in your life. And it's not really about forcing the change, right? It's about making it feel natural. It's about making it become like your default way of thinking.
Mhm.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It does. I guess my follow-up question to that is how do we come up with those new stories? Is that something that you do when you're working with clients, or is it more like, I know I want this new story. I know I want money to feel easeful and, to feel like I can earn it without a struggle. And that is the new story that I'm trying to incorporate, or does the story have kind of speak directly to the current story that we have now?
Yeah. So, to go back to, I love visual representation. And so initially, what we do is I will ask people, what does that look like? I envision those as like the new seeds that we're going to plant in someone's life. Right. And so then during the session, what that looks like is we go back to the different scenes and we actually find the old programs and the old scripts that are running because sometimes people don't actually know what the old script is. They don't actually know what the old programming is until we've quieted the conscious mind, the analytical mind, the critical voice, the part of you that's always narrating, and then we can find the scripts. So we pull those up, we uproot them, and then based on what you've told me that you consciously want, that's where we replant those seeds, where we have uprooted those old beliefs. And that's where listening to the recording that someone gets, that's watering the seeds, that's helping them to take root in your life.
And I like that visual of, like you said, pulling up the old story, planting a new one. And as someone who's terrible with plants, you have to, you still have to water it. You still have to tend to it in a way, but not in a, like, you can't, I guess if you ever had a plant, you can't be aggressive with it and water it all the time. Like it's just that
Oh,
natural process of letting it grow.
right. So, like, here's the thing. So, everybody gets a recording after they work with me, right? But, like,
Yeah.
the reality of the situation is you can listen to that all day long, and there's still like a natural process that's going to take place
Yeah.
because I don't believe that manifestation is just like changing the thoughts and beliefs. It's changing the thoughts and beliefs and then taking the action steps that are required of you, right? Based on these new beliefs that you're forming about yourself. It's taking the action steps really what that looks like, let's just go with love. So let's say that you want, you have always believed that love is painful, but you want to believe that like love can be safe and love can be X, Y, and Z, whatever you want. And it's a new belief. Okay. You're listening to this recording and it's saying all of these beautiful things about love. Well, then there comes a point when you put yourself out on the apps and you're dating and you have to make a decision in that moment. Oh, somebody just messaged you and it's such a red flag from your past and it's the same thing. Are you going to operate in the same way or are you going to operate differently based on these new beliefs that you have formed about yourself that love gets to be safe? So you can ask yourself something like, is what this person messaged me? Does it make me feel safe? If not, how am I going to proceed? Right. So
Yeah.
there's one part belief, one part action.
Yes, that does make a lot more sense. So if someone feels stuck in manifesting what they want, what is the first step that they should take?
I think that the first step is always awareness. So before anyone tries to manifest anything, I think that it can be really helpful to take stock of what do I believe about this area of my life? Do
Mhm.
I have any discomfort or resistance around achieving this? What has my past experience been with this? And what patterns am I noticing keep repeating? So once you uncover kind of like these hidden beliefs, then you can start shifting them. So whether that's through hypnosis, journaling, different things, you can start affirmations, things like that. You can start to reprogram them. But you have to have an awareness of what's the old
Mm,
script before you can change them.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that can actually be sometimes difficult too, because as you said, if it is a subconscious belief, you might not you might not be fully aware of it. So I love the idea of increasing that awareness so that you can start to get deeper into what's causing that block or that stuck feeling. What is one shift that someone can make to start manifesting differently today? Like,
Mm.
I want to manifest something. What's
Yeah.
one thing today to start with that?
Yeah. So I would say instead of focusing on the thing, I would
Hmm.
say focus on the feeling that you want to feel or the feeling you think that you're going to have when you get that thing, right? So I will just use the example if you want more money. I don't know if this is what you're right. If you want more money because you crave more freedom, ask yourself, how could I create more freedom in my life right now? Right. And so
Yeah.
that might be setting better boundaries, saying no to things that drain you, creating more space for yourself. And I feel like that goes back to the energy, right? When you shift your energy first, how can I create this feeling that I think this thing is going to bring me, right?
Hmm.
Then you're more likely to start to act in different ways. And when you act in different ways, then you start to believe something different about yourself. And
Hmm.
then the alignment of like that energy, the actions and the beliefs, right? That all starts to line up, right?
Okay. Okay. That does bring me a follow-up
Right,
question.
right. Yeah.
And it's about what you were talking about earlier with that survival mode versus, I'm going to use a comparison of safety. It could be another word, security, safety, whatever we're doing. And this is something that I faced when I did want to earn more money. It was kind of like my own realization, like certain things made me feel secure, made me feel safe. And so even though I thought I wanted that freedom, I felt like there was a tension between the safety and security and the freedom that I was feeling. And so it, I feel like I struggled to manifest either of those things because they felt like they were in conflict. And so
Right.
that that's something I have worked on and I'm still working on. But I'm curious about what happens when you're trying to manifest and you have these two things that are in tension.
Right. So here's the reality I think that isn't talked about enough is that safety and security are always going to trump everything else in your life. Your mind is wired to keep you alive. Your mind is wired to keep you safe. And so I do this in my life all the time because I don't like the word manifesting. I don't typically say I'm trying to manifest, but let's say that I'm trying to go after a specific goal in my life. I will often, and I'm maybe running into a challenge getting there. I will literally create a note on my phone or on my computer that says, what do I need right now to feel safe and secure? And
Mm.
I feel like sometimes that means that I have to look at how am I already safe and secure that my mind is just missing?
Mhm.
Or what do I actually practically and tangibly need to do to shore up safety and security in my life first before I can take the leap to do the thing that I know might expand into the bigger manifestation?
Mm.
Right.
Love that.
So
Yeah.
for me, safety, security, and survival, oftentimes we need to be tending to those in some way first before
Yeah.
we can do the other things.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point. Like that is exactly what I did when I was trying to change my own patterns around money. And I came up with this, I called it my break glass hair in
Right.
case of emergency plan. And that instantly made me feel more secure. And some of it was I'm I'm from Barbados. I'm currently living in the UK. But some of it was like, I need to know that I have enough money to buy a ticket home. No matter where I am in the world, no matter I need to feel like I can get home. That will make me safe. I don't need $1 million in savings or whatever. But if I feel like, oh my goodness, this is crazy, I need to get home immediately. I need to be able to just get my card out and buy that ticket. So that I had to come up with a figure that kind of I felt represented that for me
Right.
and some other things. And it was interesting. Then I went through that process. It was exactly as you said. It wasn't the money, but it was knowing that I had this plan that I could enact at a time when I wanted to feel that in itself made me feel more secure and more safe because yeah, now I could do whatever, not whatever I wanted, but I can do X, Y, or Z because I know that if push comes to shove, I have this plan I can enact and I have whatever resources I need to enact this plan. And it wasn't a huge number or anything, but it was what I needed and it was what it represented, not like
Right.
I need $3,000, but I need to be able to get home. If I know I can get home, I'm good.
Absolutely. Perfect example.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like, I think it's good to talk about that safety and security because it took me a long time to understand that was driving me, like a long time. I kept thinking, but I want all this freedom and I want to do these things. And if this is what I want, why can't I take the steps that are required to do it and understanding, oh, that security, that was that underlying thing for not just for me, but for most people. And how do I create that security for myself? Because I think I would see people who were living that life of freedom and I'm like, tell me, what allowed you to take this risk? And they were like, oh, if this all falls apart, I'll just go stay with my mom. And I'm like, oh, like they have a backup plan. I I don't have a mom, but how can I create this backup plan for myself? So
Right.
that was the beginning of that sort of process. And I think that made a huge difference because once I did that, I felt like I could take more risks or I could step out more. I could do something that I feel a bit more risky because I'm like, you know what? I do have this backup plan. So I think that's a great place to start for people is to kind of tend to those innate needs that we have and then that kind of takes you out of that survival mode, I think, in a way,
Right.
and puts you into that secure mode,
Right.
uh, to to even think more clearly about what you want.
Right, exactly, because that's the thing. I don't believe that you can really manifest from a place of survival. Like if your nervous system is so dysregulated that you are feeling very unsafe and constantly on edge and you are in that space, I honestly don't know that you can fully manifest from that place. I do think that you need to tend to your safety and your survival first and get some of your basic needs met, or at least have a plan in place of how those things are going to be met. before you can fully, because I do think that sometimes that's where we get in the place of ping-ponging and self-sabotage of, I'm going to take the leap and I'm going to manifest. I'm going to spend $10,000 on this coach or whatever. And then your whole system goes into a
Yeah.
frenzy and shock because you have no money on you, that kind of thing. And I don't know. I just think that yes, for some people, like they do go in that like go all in and then you have no other choice. I personally believe that it is a disservice to our nervous systems to do that.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. At least for me.
Yeah, I
So
mean, me too. So maybe for other
yeah.
people, like they need to be at that space, but
Yeah. But I think that's more common than people admit, right? It's more common than people admit that they do have this backup plan and they may not even be thinking about it in such a way as to mention it. But I think it's important for me. It was realizing that that would actually make me, as you talked about trying to think about the feeling and how can you get it now. Is like, how can I create that feeling of safety for myself right now? It would be X, Y, Z. And then once I've done that, then I can think now, how can I create that sense of freedom? But it's hard to do that if I feel unsafe.
yeah, if I were to give one key takeaway from this conversation, I believe that manifesting is a real thing. I believe that in the online space and in the way that certain people talk about it, it can be detrimental to a lot of people because sometimes it can come from a place of privilege of certain people having more of that safety and security than other people. And so, what I would really want people to take away from this conversation is that do I believe that you can manifest? Absolutely. But do I also believe that in some regards, you need to create a space of safety and security from which to manifest? Yes. I think
Mhm.
that you will manifest faster if you do it from a place of safety and security and looking at how are some of my basic needs met first before I go for the big jump, the big leap. I mean, so here's the thing. The one thing that I always ask all of my clients, even when we're in a hypnotherapy session, is when we're talking to the part of them that has created the block in their life, I ask them to ask that part of themselves, what does that part need in order to feel safe and so that it can
Mhm.
go? And often people kind of go big and I'll be like, no, let's just go small. What is one small step that you can take that part of you needs in order to feel safe and enough to release from your life? Because
Mhm.
the subconscious blocks are there often to keep us safe,
Yes.
right? And so, if we want to remove subconscious blocks from our life, we need to make that block or that part that has created this block feel safe so that it can release from your life and allow you to pursue whatever it is that you want to pursue.
Ooh, I love that. That's really great. And I think that's a great place for people to start.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's lovely. This has been a great conversation. I love thinking about these things and thinking about how to kind of address them in a way that people can start to, because there's nothing I love more than being able to set a goal and achieve it. You call it manifesting, you call it whatever you want. But for me, that idea of like all of, so many of the times in my life that I feel like I really have built my own confidence in my ability to do anything has been setting those goals and achieving them. And so I really love talking about it and kind of going deep into what can stand in people's way and how they can actually set those goals and achieve them.
Yeah, absolutely. This was great. So,
Yeah.
all right. Wonderful. So before we go, I want to invite you to hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Feel free to message me on Instagram. I'm at the Alley Rose. I would love to hear what stood out to you. And if you want to experience what hypnosis feels like, you can head to shiftyourstorypodcast.com, where I've uploaded a free safe place hypnosis track, which actually I feel like is very fitting for what we talked about. And you can download that for free. And we're sending you so much love and gratitude. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to send me a message on social media. I'm at the Allie Rose on both Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to be coached on a future episode or explore what it would look like to work with me one-on-one, head over to shiftyourstorypodcast.com. And if you never want to miss an episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review. It helps more people find this work. Until next time, keep shifting, keep growing, and most importantly, I want you to remember that your story isn't set in stone. You always have the power to shift it.